Now, the Foundation for Human Rights says it's greatly dismayed at the attacks on foreign nationals that have taken place in parts of Gauteng over the past 3 days. The organization has a long history of fighting violence and lawlessness that goes hand in hand with attacks against migrants. Motha is the Vulnerable Group Program Manager at the Foundation for Human Rights, and she joins us now. Very good morning to you, Sarah. Thank you so much for making the time to come through. When your organization was sending out a statement, you were decrying the burning of a community organization-based building in Germiston, the burning of the Casual Workers Advice Office. Did you know it would go this far?
We were not expecting this high level of violence this time around. Rightly so, we've been working on the area of human rights, education and social justice since 1996, and we've been supporting community-based advice offices as a conduit for people to access free legal service in an event where marginalized and vulnerable people cannot access or cannot afford an ordinary lawyer. Now, the office that was burnt in Germiston the day before yesterday is one of those offices that provides free legal service to workers which are precarious, who are with labor brokers, who are casual and are in precarious working contracts. And in fact, last year, this office which we are supporting won a court judgment at the Constitutional Court, where after 3 months, a worker who is in precarious contract can be formalized if they earn less than 205,000 rands per annum. So this service is provided freely, to the marginalized who cannot afford, a lawyer. So now, with the office being banned, we really calling out loud for justice to happen in this country, and for the leaders to take a firm stand, not only by talking but ensuring that there's no impunity and those that are perpetrators are brought to book.
What is your definition of the vulnerable and marginalized? And tell us about the people who come through for assistance in this building. Is it just South Africans, or is it a combination of South African and foreigners, obviously, who are registered?
If you talk about vulnerable groups, you talk about people affected by issues of xenophobia, who are largely migrants, or people who might look differently from what is, preconceived to be normal, because our society, we know, has these stereotypical views about looks and age and ethnicity. So the vulnerable will include those that are affected by xenophobia, women and children, people living in formal settlements, in peri-urban areas, those who are low-income earners, and I'm sure you might know that in this country you have two types of people. You have those that are living in the higher levels of society, and those that are living in the
inequality.
The inequality. This is where I'm going to. We have the highest levels of inequality, and the inequality, the large proportion of it lies with the people on the lower income bracket. So those are the ones who are considered vulnerable. And with that situation, being the highest country with the level of inequality in the whole world, we are also now the highest. We are the country with the highest level of violence generally, including the gender-based violence and xenophobia.
We've seen that this week unfolding.
Yes, it's clearly out there that when society have high levels of these inequalities, these gaps, the violence will escalate in its different forms. And as the foundation, we condemn. And for us, it's important to be clear with the message that we want government to take a stand. We want Chapter 9 institutions to come forward, who are meant to promote and protect, rights of every person living in South Africa. Remember, this Constitution says, irrespective of your legal status, as long as you are in South Africa as a human being, you enjoy the right to live with dignity, the right to life, and to the life to move everywhere in the country. Everyone has a right here except the right to vote. Then your status kicks in. But the fact that you are a human being, you find yourself in South Africa, you enjoy all the rights.
So, Sarah, because of human rights and because of human nature, the inclination is to want to get up and stop this violence and protect everyone who lives in South Africa. But there is another sentiment that says we cannot view xenophobia separately. You have to not deny the lived experience of South African societies who on a day-to-day basis watch drugs coming in, watch criminal activity happening. What sort of conversations is the Foundation for Human Rights having about looking at the holistic picture?
So you might remember in 2015 there was also a resurfacing of a large scale of xenophobic attacks. What we did for 3 years, we went from community to community, especially those that were hotspots, where issues of drugs, issues of looting were also prevalent, and we engaged communities from diverse nationalities to speak out as to what is the root cause and where is the source of these social ills. We found that it's a combination of factors. We found that there's high levels of corruption involved between those that are sort of perpetrators or alleged perpetrators and the police, the law enforcement agencies. And then it becomes difficult for civil society or any citizens to be more involved if the law enforcers are colluding and are not responsible for ensuring that the rule of law takes its course. So the main problem here is the corruption that happens.
Sarah, tell me here. Yeah. I don't know if you saw yesterday, the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, went to the hostels to go to talk to Izinduna and people who in Jeppes Town who may necessarily be the people who are the perpetrators of violence. And they are an angry bunch. You can't talk about policies and activities and things like that to them. They're saying, we need jobs, tell us what you're going to do to get us jobs.
This country has failed many, as you asking who are the vulnerable. We have a large population of young people, close to 19 to 20 million. Half of that population, or close to 60%, it depends who's counting, is unemployed. And it's not a problem of somebody bringing drugs or the problem of somebody opening a small plaza shops. It's a problem of this country that has lacked political will in ensuring that the socio-economic status of our young people who are in the majority gets addressed. We get to hear of different schemes that are supposed to create jobs, but this becomes lift services, perhaps for requesting for a vote, but we have not fundamentally dealt with the socio-economic scenarios of South Africa that takes us from the past
we need
up
to
to
wrap
the
up
present.
Our conversation. Just the last one from the Foundation's point of view. What do we need to do to move on from where we are right now?
We're calling upon all stakeholders, the police, we're calling on the justice system, we're calling on the Department of Health, the Immigration Department, Department of Home Affairs, to ensure, and the police as well, to ensure that, they administer these issues of migration, but also the issues of access to justice, and make sure that the perpetrators are brought into book. And the departments that are responsible, such as the Trade and Industry, the Department of Small Enterprise, they come on board to resolve the issues of youth unemployment and all other socio-economic issues of South Africa from the heart of saying we understand what the problem is and we are now willing to take it upon ourselves. We know we can win. We know this is not a major battle. We won apartheid and it was a huge battle for us. If we did, we'll be able to also resolve with only political will the socio-economic scenarios of South Africa.
With the passion that this conversation requires, yet again, that issue of corruption coming up. Sarah Motha, the Vulnerable Groups Program Manager within the Foundation for Human Rights. Blaine?